Honorable members in the House and those on hybrid, we are about to start with our meeting. It's 1 minute past 5, and we are hoping that this meeting will not take long. I don't know if
recording in
able
progress
to see those on virtual. Do we have honorable members on the virtual platform? Good afternoon, honorable members.
Good afternoon.
Can I see your faces, please? Honorable Kana, I know you are on the virtual platform. I don't know the other two members.
I am on. Yes, I'm on. I'm also here, Deputy Chief Whip.
Oh, thanks, Honorable Mika. And the other one? I'm told you are 3 on the virtual platform.
Deputy Chief Whip, I'm also
Hello.
here.
Hello. Okay. Thank you very much, honorable members. We are starting with our meeting as agreed last week that we will meet again today to look into the draft as the NA table promised to do it. So you are all welcome to this meeting, honorable members. I know that we have other meetings to attend later after this one, so I won't waste time. Do we have any apologies?
Thank you, ma'am. Yes. Good evening, members. Honorable Vessels has apologized, and I think Mrs. Durko, although she may be online, she did indicate that she was not well, but she also indicated that she may be joining online later.
Thank you very much, Honorable Vessels. Apologized, and others will join us online if we will still be in this meeting. Mr. Tasso, we are now on, okay. We have the agenda in front of us. Is there a mover for the adoption of the agenda? Honorable members, Honorable Michalakis.
Thank you, Chair. I move for the adoption.
Honorable Michalakis, move for the adoption. And Honorable Matafa.
Thank you, Comrade Deputy Chief Whip. Honorable Matafa moves for the, or seconds the proposal to adopt.
Thank you very much. Honorable Korenov, you are welcome to the meeting. I'm not sure if you have the documents. Okay. Thank you very much. I don't think this will be a very long meeting, honorable members. I'm sure we all went through the documents as sent, as circulated to us. Mr. Tasso, can you please take us through on the Oversight Committee on the Presidency?
Thank you so much, Honorable Deputy Chief Whip, and good afternoon to honorable members. We have prepared the draft rules, so we're not going back to the papers that were submitted except to make reference to them as applicable. So, of course, the first thing is the establishment of the committee. There's a committee on the presidency, that is the name proposed, and the composition as determined by the Speaker with the concurrence of the Rules Committee, but we'll get to that later on, because we do make proposals. Now, in terms of Rule 85, honorable members, we would like to draw your attention to this. It's a matter that we thought we should insert just for discussion. Now, Rule 85 is the one that deals with non-members participating in a meeting. It's a standard rule for committees, so we could have it. It would not be unusual for this rule to be applicable in this regard. But we just need to just bear in mind that there is always a possibility that that rule can present challenges, especially if there are time factors within which the committee must operate, where you can basically have so many members attending. The rule can be used for various purposes. Of course, we always hope that it's going to be used for what it is meant to do. But you can have a situation where a number of members come in, because it does not say one member per party who is not a member of the committee. So it can be any number of members who can come in and participate. Of course, the chair does have discretion to allow a member to participate and not to participate. But any decision that the chair takes must be a decision that is the principle of rationality should be applicable. So we are not insisting that you must exclude this rule, but we have put it here just to draw attention to it so that you could consider the matter as you finalize these rules. Then the functions. The first one is to maintain oversight over the budget and work of the presidency in accordance with the applicable law, the rules, and the delegation of functions in the executive. May call upon the member of the executive designated by the president to account for the budget and administration of the presidency. May call upon the president and deputy president once per year within the annual program of the assembly to discuss policy matters of national or international importance. Must perform any other function assigned to it by legislation, other provisions of the rules, resolutions of the assembly, or referred by the speaker, and may adopt guidelines regarding the execution of its mandate. Maybe we should start with the first one. This suggests that this committee will not necessarily meet only once a year, because committees, oversight committees, they meet as and when they are required to meet, for instance, to consider the annual report, to consider the budget, and to consider other oversight matters. So this committee would meet for as many or as often as it's required to meet to deal with those issues. Now, there was an issue about DG attending. It's inherent, honorable members, in the operation of committees that the DG would naturally be the one that answers in relation to issues of the budget, So we did not think it was necessary to include that in these rules. I apologize for that. To include that in the rules, because in any committee or to any committee, the DGs are asked to appear before any committee, are invited to appear, and they are then able to present on behalf of the department. Then may call upon the president and deputy president. I think that "and" is significant, because it then means that could be the president in one session, could be the deputy president in another session, who is called once per year within the annual program to discuss policy matters of national or international importance. Now, Honorable Chief Whip of the Democratic Alliance had a suggestion that the committee should be empowered to consider any other matter that the House or the Speaker deems relevant. So that sub-rule 4 is meant to deal with that. It's an all-encompassing rule, and it empowers the committee to consider any matters that the House can say, please consider this matter, or the Speaker says, okay, this matter does not belong anywhere else, but it belongs with this committee. Then the Speaker would refer the matter to their committee And of course, Rule 5 is self-explanatory. Maybe I should just go through the guidelines as well. For the sake of completeness.
Mr. Council, I just think just to note when it comes to the guidelines that it's the committee that would finally adopt the guidelines. So the rules committee wouldn't be required to adopt these at this point here.
Yes, no, thanks, Parent, for that. Here we provide the explanations, the definitions, chairperson, committee, the days, deputy president and president. And because this matter was raised in the last meeting, that's why we think we should share it with the honorable members, that there will need to be some interaction between the committee and the presidency to prearrange dates for the president and deputy president to appear before them. And that an annual program must be developed with due regard to the budget and oversight cycle as determined by the Money Bills Act. Now, point 4A is important. The committee must at least 16 days before the committee is scheduled to meet. Okay, we can fix the drafting. Before it is scheduled to meet, the president or deputy president provide notice on the subject to be discussed in the meeting. This deals with the issue of advance notice. We have used 16 days because that's the timeline we use for questions to the president. It is 16 days. So we thought maybe we should not reinvent the wheel. We should use the same notice period. The president or deputy president may, with the approval of the chairperson, defer a matter for discussion that requires details which are not immediately available. In this event, the chairperson must make a ruling as to the time frame in which the president or deputy president should address the committee in writing. The chairperson may impose reasonable limitations on the time used by members to pose questions to the president or deputy president. Now, on the issue of membership, so we've given these 3 options, honorable members. The one, we didn't give the totals, or 11 members, yes. And the other is 15 members, the other is 17 members. Honorable members may recall, those who were here in the last parliament, that for the ad hoc committee on the public protector, I think, there were full members, and then you had additional members who did not have voting rights. So that's another permutation, that's another option that you could consider. And of course, we can work out what that means in practical terms. But these are the options that we've given now. We are always careful not to make the committee cumbersome. And yeah, Honorable Chairperson, that is our input on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaso, for the presentation of the draft rules. Honorable members, the floor is open to yourselves. Honorable Korenov.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, Mr. Kaso, for the presentation of this draft. I just want to confirm and ask the question, if we adopt this, it will be a proposal from the subcommittee to the Rules Committee. Whether this draft has been cleared by the legal advisors, or whether it will only go to the legal advisors when we get to the stage of the Rules Committee, not the subcommittee. So I want to know whether this has been scrutinized by the legal services in Parliament, the draft that we have, or it still needs to go there. Then on 4A, on page 2, at least 16 days. If I look to Rule 137, questions for oral reply, 6, sub 6, there it doesn't refer to only to the days, it refers to working days. So I want to ask you whether we should not consider to also to be consistent with the questions for oral reply in the current rule book, that we also consider to put in working days. Because being in the offices of both the president and the deputy president, this is why it was working days. To do justice to the system, for the replies, for the preparation, whatever. And I don't want us to fall short of not sufficient time, so I want to propose that we do consider to put in working days, just to give the two principals proper time to prepare, come and have a decent discussion. If we don't do that, it'll be all over the place. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Korenov, for those two questions. Honorable Kana.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, for the presentation. I think in terms of the role that excludes 185, I'm not inclined to exclude it at this level. I would prefer that be handled by the chairperson in terms of the members that could participate, because especially for the smaller parties, sometimes it's not, even though we will have a representative, quote unquote, representing the small parties, it's not always the thing that they will then seek input from me before they go to a meeting. I just give that. I don't want to use other parties. So maybe that role for me, whilst it will be desirable in some instances, I think let's leave it open to the chairperson. And it might be that in the guidelines, in the application of Rule 185, that it is said that if there are parties, so that is then included in the guidelines, that if there are members who want to utilize 185, it should not be for parties that are represented in the committee, just to provide some safeguard rather than to completely exclude it at this stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kana. Honorable Matiasa. Honorable Sam Matiasa. Please unmute yourself, Honorable Matiasa. Okay, in the meantime, I'll take Honorable Michalakis while Honorable Matiasa tries to unmute himself. Honorable Michalakis.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, firstly, can I compliment the table on the rules? I have said so to them individually as well. It is a very, very good and balanced reflection of the discussion that we had last week, and I really think that they did a fine job. I do want to agree with Dr. Korenhoff on the inclusion of the word working days. I would also suggest that we look at either 10 or 15 working days. I am easy either way. I do think maybe for policy matters, if we want to go 15 working days, it would be better. It is in everyone's interest, in any case, to give the presidency enough time to be able to prepare for what it is that they bring to the committee, and not be in a situation where they have to say, we have to go back, or we can't answer you, we'll answer you in writing, but that there is actually chance for both Parliament and the presidency to prepare, so there is a fruitful engagement. So I do think that 10 or 15 working days would be in the interest of both. I do think in that instance, then it should be obviously in multiples of 5, because 5 working days in a week. We can even split it to say that for policy matters, 15 working days, and for other matters, 10, it would be 2 weeks and 3 weeks notice. I'm easy either way, but I do think it makes a lot of sense, what Dr. Quinoff is suggesting. Just with regards to the Rule 185 comment, I would also want to caution, if we make the committee too big, that we are going to ultimately sit with a case where there are, 18 parties in Parliament. If everyone gets a chance to ask a question simply because they attended the committee, you're going to never really get to go into too much detail in the committee, which is ideally what you would like. The unsympathetic comment, and I don't want to seem unsympathetic to smaller parties, is obviously always, get more seats in the committees. That is unfortunately the actual instance, because you don't want to ultimately end up with 6-7 parties having a total of 5% in the House, taking up 2/3 of the time of the committee, whereas you actually need this committee to be able to go into meaningful detail and have decent engagements, meaningful engagements with the presidency. So I would rather propose perhaps not the smallest option, but if I have to choose a 15 member committee, might make more sense. My second choice would be an even smaller committee, but I do think that including Rule 185 does open up the floodgate that all 400 members might want to try to ask the president a question, and where do you then draw the line? I do know it falls within the discretion of the chairperson ultimately, but often it's very difficult for a chairperson to manage something like that. So we need to draw the line somewhere. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Michalakis. Honorable Matthias, are you able to unmute yourself? Your hand is up.
Yes, thank you so much. I was struggling to unmute myself, Honorable Chair. Thanks for the opportunity. Honorable Chair, we have raised in the last meeting that would want for us to be thoroughly canvassed and be persuaded, and this must be guided by whether domestic or international convention on the frequency with which principals, in this case ministers, prime ministers, presidents, have to appear before the oversight committee. And we have insisted in our submission last week that we would like to be guided by that. In saying so, we are trying to discourage members from insisting that the president or the deputy president must appear just twice in a year. We find that to be really unfair, and it would deprive members of ensuring oversight work over the presidency in an event where these two principals will only appear twice before the portfolio committee. Notwithstanding the fact that they will have to appear before Parliament through questions and answers sessions. A close proximity between them and the committee that oversees their functions is important. So just making them to appear or expecting them to appear twice, we find that to be very unproductive. We propose that we need to look into that and be guided by either domestic or international convention. Thank you so much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, honorable members, for your questions, which will be accordingly responded to. Let me start by going back to the discussions that we had last week as this committee. Yes, the EFF put their proposal forward, and then the other parties also put their proposals forward. The DA, the ANC, and the Rise Mzansi. So the proposal was that of the three parties that I'm referring to. The proposal was that the president or the deputy president will appear before the committee once to respond to matters pertaining to policy, domestic or international policy. Then the president may assign or designate any member of the executive to appear before the committee, and the DG as an accounting officer to appear before the committee to respond to matters pertaining to any other thing with regard to the presidency vote 1. That's where we were. And also there was the proposal of the membership of this committee. That is why we are here today. The real reason we are in this meeting today was to go through with the table staff with regard to what they have drafted. So now I'll allow Mr. Klaso to respond to the questions raised. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And another thing, the subcommittee doesn't take decisions. We process matters. The matters will go to the Rules Committee where decisions will be taken. And also the report of the subcommittee will indicate both what the majority parties in the subcommittee proposed and also the minority views. So those are the things that will be taken into account before we go to the Rules Committee where decisions will be taken. Thank you very much. Mr. Klaso.
No, thank you so much, Honorable Chairperson. Maybe starting with the issue of legal services. The colleagues were here last week. We always work with them. They would have received this document, but we can just check with them again if they have any issues before it goes to the Rules Committee. But on the face of it, it does not appear that there will be any legal difficulties with what we have proposed. We take the point about the number of days, but we do want so that this committee is well informed on the matter. The rule on the notice period for the president and deputy president, which is for the president, is Rule 142. 140, sub-rule 2, it says 16 calendar days. That's to the president and to the deputy president. It does not say working days. But of course, this committee can, in its wisdom, propose that we do working days in this specific matter. And then the issue of the frequency of the meetings, Honorable Matthias, the UK example, we have looked at it because the members of the Rules Committee did go to the UK on this matter. And there, the Prime Minister appears twice or 3 times a year, but so for only 2 hours on each occasion. So the sense we got from the last meeting was that here, it will be for a much longer period. If the president appears before Parliament, it could basically be, I don't know, we don't want to influence the number of hours, but it does not appear that it will be for 2 hours. So I think one has to balance the two. Chair, I mean, whether it's 10 or 15 days will be guided. Of course, if it is working days, then 10 days may make sense, maybe, because working days you exclude weekends. But my colleagues who deal with questions will advise me on that. I still need some firm position from the committee on Rule 185. The one view is that let's not exclude Rule 185, and the other seems to be that, look, Rule 85, let Rule 85 be, I don't know if I understood correctly, Perrin will assist me, but I'm not clear there what we are saying on Rule 185. But the view from the Honorable Chief Whip of the Democratic Alliance is that on the membership, Were you saying 11 members or 15 members, or you say it didn't matter? So, yeah. Chair, maybe if the exclusion of Rule 85 would be controversial, we would advise that let's not exclude it, and let's test it with application of the rule. Or we can put it to the Rules Committee to decide that, because we also don't want to attach unnecessary controversy to this process. So that is our view. But we thought we must raise Rule 185 for your consideration. Parent, did I respond to all the questions?
Yes, I think so.
Thank you.
There's a follow-up, Honorable Michalakis,
Thank you, Chair.
before you, Perrin.
I just want to make sure the Rule 185 provision, a member of the Assembly who's not a member of the committee or subcommittee may be present at a meeting of the committee or subcommittee. To what extent does it then limit what I mentioned? For example, when it's going to be a fairly important high-profile committee, to what extent does it then limit literally any of the 400 members in their numbers to just come to the committee and try to participate if they have questions to the president? Is there any mechanism that we can actually put in place? Because that is what I ultimately fear, is we sit with a whips committee that's very strictly regulated, or Chief Whips Forum, for example, that allows 1 or 2 members of a party, but 5 or 6 rock up. Can you imagine what the Committee on the Presidency will look like? So to what extent will there be a mechanism for the chairperson in place to say, okay, but then we give every party, for example, X number of minutes to engage with the president, and if your minutes are done, we don't care which members of yours engage with the president, but pro rata, every party will have X number of minutes, and that is what you will use. I can only see that would be a possible option to say, well, every party gets time, and how you use it is your prerogative, but this is your time, and if it's done, it's done. Other than that, is there any other way in which we can prevent that the president is literally taken into a committee to sit there and answer questions of any member who effectively wants to ask whatever they want on that topic?
Perrin?
I'll cede my time. Okay, no, maybe if I may. So, Rule 185 sub 2A does say a member mentioned in sub Rule 1, which is any member, may speak on any matter before the committee or subcommittee, subject to any reasonable restrictions the chairperson may impose. So there is that, if you call it a safeguard, there is that qualification.
Yeah, she's the chair of that Rules Committee Secretary.
Honorable Makubela, please mute. Honorable Makubela, please mute. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The other, I wouldn't call it a safeguard, condition, maybe it could be done by way of guidelines. So in the guidelines, paragraph 4 sub C, it says that the chairperson may impose reasonable limitations on the time used by members to pose questions to the president and the deputy president. So you could, by way of the guidelines, try and control, if it needs to be controlled, try and control that type of eventuality. The other possibility, and I think Mr. Casa was alluding to it, is if you have a certain number of members from each party. So say, for example, you go with 11 members, which is the same, you could have, the Rules Committee could decide as well that one member from all the other parties could attend, but may not necessarily vote. So then, in other words, you could have your 11 members that would vote, because that has to be, broadly speaking, proportional. And then you have one member from every other party who can attend the committee, participate, and can ask questions, obviously subject to time frames, but may not then vote. So that the equivalent would be the committee we had in the Fifth Parliament. Thanks.
Mr. Chris?
No, thank you. I think the proposal that the Chief Whip is making may assist, because that's what the current committee is doing. The one on allegations by General Mkonazi, they allocate parties time, of course, a lot of time. So it will depend on this committee how it does it, because while the chair has the power, but reasonable restriction can be difficult. I mean, what is reasonable to me may not be reasonable to another person. So the guidelines would need to, the issue of proportionality may come in and it will assist that. So I think, Chair, from where I am, I think that may be a workable arrangement, better than excluding Rule 85. Thanks. There are two hands, Chair, on the platform, Honorable Ghana and Honorable Matiasa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paso. Honorable Ghana, followed by Honorable Matiasa.
Thanks very much, Chair. And we are almost getting there where we are not excluding Rule 185. So I was going to say that the chairperson could then impose the issue of proportionality. Because even if you look at, for instance, the Chief Whip's Forum, as an example, yes, it might not work in the way that we need to. So all the party whips are represented in that committee and participate. But let's give it, that's why I was suggesting, Chair, that particular matter in terms of participation, it's handled in the guidelines. So let's not exclude Rule 185. We'll keep it. Then if, say, for instance, it's a question and answer, and the question and answer, it's the chairperson then says that no, time will be allocated proportionally in the same way that we deal, whether it's the declaration. So think of it like if you're dealing with the declarations, the time is allocated proportionally. All parties speak on a declaration. There's never been this thing that it's cumbersome because all the parties are speaking in a declaration. So we can have that system wherein the parties that are present that want to participate, the allocation of time is proportional. It's the same method that's used during debate. It's used during declaration. So the idea should be about inclusion rather than excluding other parties. And we use the same principle when we deal with all the matters before the assembly. And I don't think it will be wise for us to then have an exclusionary mechanism to exclude all the parties that might have a question. If I have 2 minutes, it's 2 minutes. That's what it is. Then I must use my 2 minutes wisely. But let's not exclude. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kana. Honorable Matthias, are you covered?
No, I'm not entirely covered, Honorable Chair. I'm following the discussions. Perhaps, Honorable Chair, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
I'm saying perhaps we may want to caution that let's not err on the side of regret in the future, but err on the side of being cautionary that this committee we are establishing and the rules that will govern its operations, it's the first of its type. We have never had such a committee before. So whatever we discuss here and recommend to the Rules Committee must be futuristic in nature so that it's not open for speculation or for review going forward. So all what I'm saying is that let's not be emotional about this process. Secondly, Honorable Chair, all the dimensions that we're touching and are linked to this matter are interlinked. Whether is it about the size of the committee, whether is it about the time allocation to members who must speak, whether is it about the proportionality of representation in the committee, or whether is it about the frequency of meetings that the president or his deputy must sit, are all interlinked. We may perhaps want to caution that if we are going to limit the appearance of the president for just one meeting, in 365 days, 4 quarters of a year, 12 months, we at some point may be forced to extend the sitting of such a portfolio committee for extended hours, like the current ad hoc committee on the allegations by General Mkhwanas. So let's be flexible and not be partisan. Let's say, let's be flexible, let's have the president or the deputy president appear. If we can't agree on 4 appearances a year, let's agree on a 2 appearance to avoid having to sit from sunrise to sunset, where we have to engage the president to extract as much information from him or from his deputy on the operations of his department. Given the fact that, this is the last point, Honorable Chair, that the president from time to time takes ministries and put them into his office. As a result of that, you find that the presidency is bloated. And there are lots of commissions and committees and all sorts of ministries and departments there. So we have to take that into account when we make recommendations for the smooth operations of a committee such as this, which is first of its type in the history of our country. Thank you so much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Matthias, for your inputs. I haven't seen anyone being emotional or partisan in this meeting. We are all discussing one thing about a committee which is the first of its kind. Like I said earlier, all views will be taken care of in the report of the subcommittee. They will be taken to the Rules Committee. And we agreed last week, the president and the deputy president will appear on policy matters. Operational matters, there is a DG, there is a minister who will be designated to deal with those issues. So what, Honorable Ghana, you said in your inputs and that of the other members who are here with regard to the proportionality part of the committee and also the number of days, the number of working days to give notice on the topical matters that the president and the deputy president will come here to respond to. So I think the agreement here is that I want us to go to the same number of days that we give when it comes to questions for oral reply, which is 16 working days. I think that maybe will be proper, not to deviate from that. The notice that is given for the questions for oral reply, how many days?
Chair, I think it says at the moment, I think it says 16 calendar days, if I'm not mistaken. So that is.
Chair, the rule 137.6 specify for all questions, there's a notice period of 6 days prior to the question day. 6 working days prior to the question day. That is rule 137.6, and that applies to all questions, president and ministers. But with regard to the president and the deputy president, the rules specify 16 calendar days for the submission of those questions for the speaker's approval.
I think we can move with that. Do we want to deviate from it? The current setup that we are using, yes.
16 calendar days, is that what we're saying?
The 16 calendar days is equal to 15 working days.
So we move with the 15.
The calculation of calendar days are each day in the calendar. The calculation of working days are Monday to Friday, and excluding public holidays. It excludes also
Weekends.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the point. Because if you don't do that, you put both the House, the two principals, under tremendous pressure. And then you offer the quality of the debate here in the House, either from the two principals or members engaging in this process. So I plead for this from experience that we're not losing anything. We can only gain and prepare for a thorough, in-depth discussion and debate.
Honorable Michalakis, then I'll come back to you.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to check in practice, if you translate 16 calendar days to working days, would that be roughly then 10 working days? And if it's 10 working days, 16 calendar days more or less, would that be practical? Because I also think we need to take very much the guidance from the presidency into account to know what is practically possible. Also taking into account that the oral questions to the president is 6 questions. This might be a bit more in-depth. It might be a bit easier because it's one policy direction, whereas the oral questions are various policy directions. I do think these are factors that we need to take into account. But in my understanding, 16 calendar days roughly translates to about 10 working days or 2 weeks, which I think from my perspective might be right, but I'm very far from being the president. So we do need to take guidance from that side as well. Thank you.
Mr. Klasu.
Chair, we are amenable to 15 working days. So that's 3 weeks. Dr. Kunaf, am I right? 15 working days is 3 weeks, am I right? Yes. So we're amenable to that. I mean, it's if that's what we think is reasonable, there's no issue, because this is not a question session.
It will play itself out, because in practice, normally, when the questions or the notice is published in the papers of Parliament, at that point, the two principals should be informed to give proper preparation time. Otherwise, you offer this quality of engagement from experience. So I'm pleading that we don't go to bed with this and make something of it that's not there, but just be practical and see how it works. And that's why I asked earlier whether this has been scrutinized by legal services, and whether legal services will only after the Rules Committee made the final decision, we give it to the legal people.
Chair, we will definitely give to legal services, but the number of days would not be a legal issue. But I get your point. I think we'll ask them specifically to just look if there's any issue they need to raise before we get to the Rules Committee. Thanks.
Karen?
Thanks. I just wanted to point out again that the guidelines are something that's going to be adopted by the committee itself. So it wouldn't be necessary that the Rules Committee has to agree to 15 or 16 days. That's something which the committee, of course, the Rules Committee can express itself and say this is something which we feel should be the case. But at the moment, those timeframes are in the guidelines. So it would be for the committee, I'm talking about the committee and the presidency now, to sit and say what is reasonable. And if it doesn't work, then change that time. Thanks.
Thank you very much, honorable members. I wanted us just to give the table staff some more information with regard to how we want this committee to work. And also, we are not excluding Rule 185, as it has been discussed in this meeting. And also, for that committee, we don't want anyone to come and ambush the president or deputy president which questions with information that was not submitted prior. So the 15 working days is to allow those who will be asking questions to the president or deputy president to send their information through so that they can get the responses that they will be looking for. So when we process these rules, honorable members, we are not processing rules for specific individuals. These are rules of Parliament. They will work even if we are not here, and they will be amended if needs arise. Doesn't matter whether we pass the rule today, then next year we come back and amend it. So that is what we must do if need arises. Thank you very much. I think we are stepping off this item of the presidency oversight. I'm sure we are going to pass it in the Rules Committee as a committee that we've been all waiting for. Let's get into interpellations. Mr. Klasu.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. It is our understanding that the last meeting agreed that we will modify the current system that we have for questions. So instead of going for a pure interpellations, we would adjust what we have so that it has elements of interpellations and elements of what we currently have. So we won't necessarily call it interpellations. It will be question time, but it will have, as I say, the characteristics of interpellations as well. So we have two proposals. The one has been circulated, if Jerome can reflect that. The one proposal is that is Rule 142.5. Go to 5, Jerome. Yeah, this is 4, sorry. Where we deal with the supplementary questions. So what we're suggesting here is that you still have 4 supplementary questions, but the 4th supplementary question is taken by the questioner. So why this option? Whereas last time we spoke about 5, we are also trying to address the issue of the time, but we, as I say, we have 2 options. So if you take 4 supplementary questions with the 4th supplementary question taken by the questioner, and you had 3 hours, you will take 10 questions per question session in 3 hours with 4 supplementary questions. But if you add 30 minutes to the 3 hours, you will take 11.6 questions on a question day with 4 supplementary questions. So that's the time that you would take. And if you took 5 supplementary questions, you will then, your question will typically take 21 minutes per question, which will give you 8.6 questions in 3 hours and roughly 10 questions in 3.5 minutes. But both options allow the questioner a second bite on the question before the minister replies with the last reply. So, Honorable Chairperson, that is what we are in the main proposing. So 142.4 in terms of the document that we have circulated, in respect of each question, 4 supplementary questions may be asked. The member in whose name a question stands or takes charge of the question in terms of this rule must be given the first and last opportunity to ask a supplementary question. The other option would say 5 supplementary questions, the member being given the first and last opportunity. So if we agree to the extension of the question time, we'll obviously add the 30 minutes. We also are proposing that perhaps you may want not to limit questions to Wednesdays, because I mean, as we have done previously, you could have questions on Tuesdays or Thursdays. So instead of being specific about the day, you say question days. So any day decided by the program committee for questions, that becomes question days, and questions would have precedence on that day. And of course, we keep the one about a member may make a statement. So, Chair, those are the key issues that we are proposing. I must say, as I conclude, we must still resolve at some point the issue of us only dealing with 10 questions per question day or 12 questions and not completing the question paper. We are looking at different possibilities from a technical point of view, but it is not for now. For now, this is what we're dealing with. We're still trying to find a solution to the issue of us completing the question paper on any question day, which is not the case at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Klaso. Are there takers, honorable members, on the issue of interpellations? Honorable Michalakis.
Thank you, Chair. From my side, I would be very much in support of the body of the rule, the amendments. It is just, as Mr. Klaso says, the 1424 question of 4 or 5 supplementary questions. The rest of the text I'm quite happy with. What I would ideally like to see is a breakdown then with the formula of allocation of questions, the determination that the speaker makes on the model of 4 supplementary questions and 5 supplementary questions. I think it will give us a more practical view to see how many opportunities and how that works out. I do think it is an opportune time for us to, if the whole structure of the questions are changing, to maybe have a look and either reconfirm or maybe reconsider the allocation formula, which is something that I think we can do at the Rules Committee if we accept this, with the exception of still determining 4 or 5 supplementary questions once we have that. But I would very much like to first see the determination and make a consideration myself on the current formula that we have to be able to say whether I support 4 or 5 supplementary questions. And that's all from my side. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Michalakis. Honorable Ghana.
Thank you very much. I think on the point that Honorable Michalakis raises in terms of maybe looking at an analysis of this term insofar as the questions and the times and so forth will assist. My immediate inclination, Chair, will be that if you have 4 supplementary questions and the questionnaire has got two out of the 5, so 50% of the questions, the supplementary questions, are taken by the questionnaire. The end result of that is that the opportunities available to the smaller parties reduces. There's no space wherein that kind of a configuration of 4 supplementary questions end up with a situation where we have from the other parties the same number of opportunities as we have. So if you were to have the only 4 supplementary questions where 2 of the 4 supplementaries are asked by the questionnaire, the end result or the main beneficiaries in that instance will be only the bigger parties, effectively. That's what it is. And so an analysis, Mr. Klaso, of saying, all right, since we started this term, these are the number of question days, so excluding the president and the deputy president, these are the number of question days that have been asked, that we have had. These are the number of questions that were asked on that day. This is the breakdown the supplementaries. So the main questions and the supplementaries that each of the parties have had, so that information will help inform in terms of the decision. But my immediate calculation in my head, I'm going towards a 5 rather than a 4, because a 5 keeps the 3 supplementaries outside of the questionnaire. So if you have a 5, yes, what reduces the number of questions that are responded to in a session, but increasing that time to 3.5 hours almost gives you back the time that you'll have lost in a 3-hour session. So my back of the envelope calculation will be that agree on the 3.5 hours, move towards the 5 supplementaries where the questioner will have the first and the last. That one I can agree, because it kind of keeps the status quo of the 3 other supplementaries not coming from the at least be available to the other parties in that question. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Garner. Is there another taker on this matter, Honorable Korenhoff?
I just want to plead that you have 2 programs that must always be balanced and in sync and talk to each other. One is a parliamentary program and the other one is the executive program. And it's a constant effort to balance the 2 programs. So the moment you move away from structured program historically, then you may run into problems. So for instance, up to now, question days have always been on a Wednesday. Cabinet meetings are on a Wednesday. It's for a reason, to balance the 2 programs, and that the 2 programs must be complementary to each other. The moment you move one of those days to another day, you may run into problems. So when we consider, I just plead that we keep in mind that it's not only the parliamentary program, but also executive program. And if you go out of sync with that, you may run into problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Korenhoff, for questioning us on that one. I was going also to suggest that let's not move away from Wednesday's question session, because it might cause disruptions somewhere else. So the proposal here, as per our discussion last week, was to add the 30 days, the 30 minutes, the 30 minutes, I'm sorry, was to add the 30 minutes to accommodate the other parties. I think that is what was a popular view last week from members, to say, let's accommodate the smaller parties, other parties as well, so that NABO, they participate in this thing. So we are taking that. So your proposal, Mr. Kaso, that you were looking into something else, for now, let's leave it and see how we fare with what we are proposing here. So, honorable members, I think we are in agreement with regard to that, ne? On interpellations, Mr. Tasso?
Yes, I wanted to just your last words, Chair. Are members okay that we don't change the name of what we call questions? In other words, we have now factored in elements of interpellations, and we won't call them interpellations, but it's still the question session that we have, but it has interpellations in it. Are we good with that? Okay, so I thought I must just clarify the point. The issue of not moving away from Wednesdays, I'm okay, because I think the issue of the Deputy President and President those would be exceptions because they don't come on Wednesdays. Number of questions, the formula that has been asked for, we will prepare that. Yes.
Are you there? Okay. Karen?
Fine, ma'am, apart from, if I may say that obviously what will then happen is we will provide the information that's been sought and draft a report and then liaise with the members, the leadership of the Rules Committee to determine when that can meet. Thanks.
Thank you very much, honorable members, for your participation in this meeting. So we have an agreement, then the other view will be captured as well in our report. So the table staff will go and prepare a report of the subcommittee. We will look into that, then sign it off to the Rules Committee for the day that the Speaker will determine for the Mr. Klasu.
Should we still go with 4 or 5 to Rules Committee, or we go with 5 supplementaries?
When we take 3.5 hours, it's 5 supplement. It's 5. How many?
Sorry, Chair, my suggestion was that we first look at the formula and then make the determination between 4 and 5. That we adopt the rest of the wording, but that the 4 and 5 can ultimately be determined by the Rules Committee once we've seen the formulas. I don't know if that's going to be a practical and progressive suggestion or whether a decision must be made here, but I do think that it's necessary for us to first see those formulas to be able to make a decision. In which committee we make it is neither here nor there, in my view.
Okay. You saying that, okay, 4 or 5, but the one that will add 30 minutes, the question time for 30 minutes, is that the first questioner will come back and ask the last question? Mr. Plaki?
Chair, on both these options, the original questioner comes back at the end to take the last supplementary. So what we will have would be the minister answers the question 4 minutes. The original questioner then asks a supplementary 2 minutes. Then the minister answers. Then the next supplementary question is taken 1 minute. The minister answers. The next supplementary question is taken 1 minute. The minister answers, and the next supplementary question is taken 1 minute, and the minister answers. And which is the final supplementary then is that of the original questioner again that comes back.
I think the point, Chair, is that either option there's going to be additional time, because currently the 4th supplementary is 1 minute. This proposal says the 4th supplementary will be 2 minutes if we go for the 4 supplementary questions. So currently the time you allocate to a question is 15 minutes, but with 4 supplementaries and the questioner coming in as the 4th supplementary question with 2 minutes now, it works out to 18 minutes. So the time will increase either way. In one instance to 18 minutes, the other to 21 minutes per question.
Okay, Michalakis, then I'll go to Honorable Ghana on the virtual platform.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to speak again so soon. But I would, if I have to indicate a preference, I would rather go for 4. And I'll explain the reason. We have found over the last while that members in their follow-up questions have a prepared follow-up questions, and they don't really listen to the response of the ministers. It's just a case of that, whereas the final follow-up question from the original questioner would be something where the member would have to think on their feet to be able to respond to what the minister said. And I would prefer more of that interaction than predetermined, pre-formulated follow-up questions. that members just ask regardless of what the minister's response is. That is also not taking us forward. That to a great extent frustrates all of us and wastes our time. So I think more frequent off-the-cuff follow-up questions would be better. So I would, if I have to express a preference now, it would be 4 rather than 5. Thank you.
Honorable Ghana.
Thanks very much. I think, this is where the time issue comes in. So the reason we had pushed for, or as I understand, was pushed for 30 minutes. It was for 5. And how you then handle the 5, for instance, I will not see a reason if there's already been an interaction from the original questioner in asking the first follow-up. I will not see a reason why do you still want to allocate that person 2 minutes at the end, because the supplementary are supposed to be quick fire, not an opportunity to make a statement. So you shouldn't be making a statement as the last supplementary if you are the questioner. It's a quick fire kind of a thing. But as I said, back of the envelope, once you move to 4 supplementary, where the original questioner has got 2 opportunities out of the 4, then the net result is that there are less members that participate in a question and answer session. There's no world where you are reducing the number of additional supplementaries, but still saying that no, there will be more opportunities to participate. If we are moving for inclusion, 5 is the way to go. Then the last question by the original questioner should only be a minute. It should not be to make a statement with that last part. So that reduces. It gives us a bit more time. We actually save 17 minutes out of that arrangement, and then that then gives a space for an additional question, Chair. Thanks very much. This is back of the envelope calculation that I've just done by my desk. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ghana. Mr. Plakis, you are going to do the formula as requested by this committee. And also the 2 views must be captured, parent, that one of having 5 and the other one of having 4. I think this settles everything. That in our report, we have 2 views. Yeah, so those views must be captured as such, and then we'll take them to the Rules Committee. Honorable members, we are done for today. I think we have come to the end of our meeting. What will happen next is for parent, Mr. Kaso's team, to prepare a report that will be circulated to all of us. We'll come back, even if it's for 5 minutes, just to adopt that report that will go to the Rules Committee. Thank you very much, honorable members, and Mr. Kaso and your team for assisting us in doing this work, this difficult work. So the meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.